Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants. And today we're here with Judy Frankel of judyshomegrown.com. And our topic today is on 5G and its effect on the honeybee. And Judy, thanks again for being with us today.
Thank you for coming.
And I know we've had so much more fun on a much lighter note, having fun in your garden, having fun in my garden, planting tomatoes, caring for your avocado tree that was sunburnt that I now see outside is producing and so much more productive than it was last year. And we've done a lot of Q&A, again, all gardening related and on a much lighter note. But you were the one at our last lesson that we did here at your home where we discussed gardening tools, selecting gardening tools, how to clean gardening tools. And it was then that you shared your passion is, I know you're also involved in, making sure that our environment remains clean and healthy and hopefully something that's going to last long enough for our kids to also enjoy and hopefully beyond. And I know you've always shared a little bit more than just gardening, but you also are concerned about tomorrow and the well-being of tomorrow. And this is my opportunity to hopefully bring your education and your experiences and your research that you've done so far, which I know is very lacking in regards to sources out there relating to 5G on honeybees. And that's just a very narrow topic. It's a much broader impact. But I wanted to hopefully take this opportunity with you to communicate to the Ivory Organics YouTube audience and hopefully gain their feedback and gain hopefully further education, not just for me, for you, and hopefully for the rest of the world on this technology that's going to change our tomorrow.
Right. Well, the first thing I want to go into before we get technical on people is this Albert Einstein quote on bees. He said, if the bee disappeared off the surface of the globe, then man would have only 4 years of life left. No more bees, no more pollination, no more plants, no more animals, no more man. So if the honeybee is so important, shouldn't we at least research what 5G's effects would be on bees? We already know that it's harmful to humans and to plants and to bees. But 5G is going to blanket the surface of the earth with electrosmog 24/7. And they want to put in a small cell phone tower every 100 meters or 328 feet. So no one can get away without being affected by this, including the bees.
So before we get into 5G and its effects on the honeybees and so much more as we started off, I want to educate the viewer on what 5G actually is. And I spent hours in preparation for today's lesson on even educating myself on what 5G is. And I know that it's all over TV, radio, and 5G is the next best thing coming for communications and technology. But what is it? And I've researched this article here published by celltowerleaseexperts.com, where they define 5G as being 5G cell towers are telecommunication sites that could boost wireless signals by 10 times the current speed of 4G. So, and I also learned through other research as well that the 4G is 4th generation, and this is now the 5th generation of technology relating to maximizing speed, download, speeds, and so forth, and that the 5G network would be built on small cell site technology with antennas as close as, my research says, 500 feet apart, which I kind of figured my house is about 50 feet of frontage, on the street. So with 50 feet, and if every house was 50 feet of like curb area, we're talking about, based on 500 feet, a cell tower for every 10th home. So on my block, there would be 2 cell towers, but your research calculates that it would be even closer than that.
Right, so the signal really drops off after 100 meters, so they have to juice it up again by putting another cell phone tower, so that's every 328 feet. And that would be averaging home sizes every 2 to 5 homes. So you might have a cell phone tower in front of your house, is what I'm basically trying to say.
So these towers, what are they emitting that's so damaging? Like what's coming off of this 5G, tower that's different? Well, if 5G is 10 times more powerful than 4G, then I'm assuming it's going to be 10 times more intense. What is it? What is being emitted by these towers?
So what's being emitted from these small cell towers is EMF, otherwise known as electromagnetic frequency or electromagnetic field. And sometimes you'll see in the literature radio frequency radiation. So actually these multiple ways of calling something often help confound the issue, which is why I'm taking the time to say there's more than one name for it. But this 5G is emitting 30 gigahertz to up to 300 gigahertz. And in the case of these small cell towers, they're limiting it to 90 gigahertz because at 95 gigahertz, it is actually a weapons grade weapon that you can burn people's skin with it at 95 gigahertz. So we're just shy of the 95 that these cell towers have the capability of putting out. It's a smog. Obviously, it's stronger at the source, but as soon as you put a cell phone near you and you're getting the signal from it, you're now, getting that high of a signal at the source of your cell phone, your iPad, your computer. So essentially you are repeating that signal once you've received it. Yeah. So when they say, oh, it drops off, that's not true if you're holding the source of, wherever the material or the information is coming to. So in between the tower and your receiver is the smog. So imagine if you're trying to fly through that, if you're a bee, and it's wrecking your nav system, you're going to have a hard time going back to your hive. And that's what they found in some of these studies.
I think most people, so again, the frequency that's being emitted by the towers is called EMF, electromagnetic field or frequency. So I think most people would identify better with pigeons. And we all know that you can take a pigeon, and this was done since biblical times. You can release a pigeon and it'll communicate to certain homes hundreds of miles away and then return back with messages. And it was a way of communicating before flip phones was pigeons, and pigeons would rely predominantly, aside from the sun, sunset, movement of the stars or whatever, but we know that pigeons are in hone with the electromagnetic frequency of the planet, something that existed for millions of years. The magnet that exists between the North Pole and the South Pole, and just the natural radiation that exists from the natural planet. And now having this tower that's emitting its own electromagnetic frequency and I'm going to share with you some research that supports it in the few hours I've invested in this so far, that'll show that it's now steering birds in weird directions and basically confusing birds. They said they've found some chicks dying within the eggs when they're too close to these frequencies as well. The bees naturally, and being a plant person, as most of our viewers are, they're saying it even affects the health and the life of your plants too. So, which again, they're not going to be able to thrive and propagate to the next generation without the bee. So the bee is important as well, and that's kind of our focus is the bee. But there's also some research that affects us too, right?
Oh yeah. So there's been 10,000 studies that have been done on fields of 2G, 3G, and to some extent 4G, and they've already shown so much of health effects that are negative. So the reason that they can say, and you'll find that they'll claim there's no known link between 5G cell towers and any health effects, is because they haven't done any studies. So out of negligence, pure omission, they have decided, okay, we're just going to implement this. So basically we're in a huge experiment.
So with the no known studies, and I'm asking the viewers because this is going to hopefully circulate to hundreds if not thousands of people now, and if you see any research that supports that 5G is healthy, and especially if you can get a university study, something that's coming from a scholastic university that's going to stand behind it. If there's a university that stands up and says 5G is healthy and does not disrupt bee life and bird, coexisting with hopefully us and our ways of advancement, please share it with us and put that in the comment. I told you hours of research in advance in preparation for this, and the topic I did in just my brief Google search, which I'm going to put on the screen here as well for you, is I Googled 5G and honeybees. And with that, I got 4 articles, and I'm doing this in order. The first article came up saying that there's no effect. And their analogy that this person drew, and I'll share the title, it says, "Is 5G a CIA plot?" And this was published in Forbes.com. And I'll even read one of the key paragraphs out of this publication, which reads, "Millions has been spent looking for detrimental effects of exposure to mobile phones and none found." So this author also drew an analogy to sound, being if sound is loud enough, it can cause hearing damage, and especially for the elderly as well as the very young, they're the most prone. But he's suggesting that this frequency emitted by the EMFs is going to be so low that it's negligible and pretty much shouldn't be addressed, and there's no need for concern. But the next 3 articles that follow in my research all say yes, 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 this is something we should be concerned about. And this comes from 3 different publications. The next one I want to share with you is called "Radiation from Cell Phones. Wi-Fi is hurting the birds and the bees. 5G may make it worse." And so this one sentence I want to read from the article reads, "Technology is quite literally destroying nature, with a new report further confirming that electromagnetic radiation from power lines and cell towers can disorient birds and insects and destroy plant health. The paper warns that as nations switch to 5G, this threat could increase." Another one that emphasizes that 5G is going to affect our surrounding biology is titled "5G to Kill the Birds, the Bees, and Your Loved Ones," and this was published in principiascientific.org. And the key sentences I want to highlight here read as follow. "All plants and animals, as well as humans, have adapted to the Earth's electromagnetic fields, which include a direct current DC magnetic field." And that's what I was talking about earlier, being there's natural electromagnetic fields that exist before any of this technology existed. A DC electrical field and low frequency natural...
Schumann resonances.
Thanks for doing that. Natural fields. There are both electric and magnetic, caused by the geometry of the Earth's surface and the ionosphere near the top of the atmosphere. To navigate in relation to these fields and to control their immune systems, birds and bees are magnetically sensitive substances called cryptochromes. These are protein pigments found in virtually all animals, plants, and many bacteria. The cryptochromes measure light to control and reset animals and plants' biological clocks. Some animals also use cryptochromes to sense or see the direction of the Earth's magnetic field. Cryptochromes are badly impaired by human-made oscillating electromagnetic fields, disrupting insects and animals' solar magnetic navigation abilities, likely leading to results such as bee colony collapse, loss of migratory birds and butterflies. And I even put a question mark here, being, is this maybe why the monarchs are on the verge of extinction too, or their populations are plummeting? I've never heard it being related to electromagnetic fields, but maybe even the monarch butterflies are affected. And a weakening of the immune system. For example, radio frequency radiation, also known as RFR, can blot out a bird's perception of the Earth's field, causing bird or insects to fly in the wrong direction, and also disrupt a bird's internal clock based on the sun's changing position. And the last article I want to share before I turn the floor back over to you. And this article that I found here titled Pollinators at Risk, Honeybee Says Stop 5G, and this is published by the emfsafetynetwork.org. And this was loaded with hopefully facts. And again, I'm looking forward to gaining support. Hopefully you can find the university studies that also back these up. But this is the headline news. It reads, technology is quite literally destroying nature. Another one, 180 scientists and doctors from 35 countries have signed a recommendation for a 5G moratorium. 5G increases body temperatures of insects. A $30 million U.S. National Toxicology Program, known as the NTP, study into 2018, just published last year, found clear evidence, quote unquote, that cell phone radiation is linked to cancer. And then birds disappearing mysteriously, bees under threat, EMF can cause cancer, electromagnetic fields, a credible threat, quote unquote, to wildlife. And I mean, these are all very bold, strong statements that are cited, supported by facts. And this here's, I'm going to save this, I guess, for last. It's a suggested letter template with some of the things you should be saying, I guess, when sharing your concern about 5G in your community. And I'm going to share with you what I'm going to do towards the end, but I want you to have the floor before I read this suggested letter template that maybe some of you incorporate into your writings and in your communications with other people as it relates to 5G, in our communities.
Well, I just want to put a thumb right on the problem. This is hubris to the nth degree. This is the telecom industry, and they're wanting, driverless cars and trying to get always ahead of China. That kind of hubris is going to make the natural world suffer in such a way that we won't have food. I mean, what is the point if you can't eat? So you can't just put out a technology without knowing what the ramifications are down the line. What does matter is and I know that birds and bees are pollinators, and they're essential to our life. We can't survive without pollinators. Yeah. I'm not saying all pollinators will be killed. I'm not saying even that all bees would be killed. But what we have to really focus on is, should we implement a technology worldwide, essentially, and for sure, across the United States, without knowing the effects? Because if you look in the literature, and we're asking, if you know of any studies about 5G that show it's perfectly safe to the natural world, post it below. We want to see scientific studies, not just opinion. What we're saying is we have not found any 5G studies. There are none out there. Yeah. And that's why the industry can disingenuously say, there's been no proof. Well, that's because we haven't studied it. So,
well, the first article that came up was really more so an opinion article that said, it's probably insignificant and just as that analogy to sound, that it's so low that it's going to have very, very little to no effect.
But that's a puff piece, basically.
But there is
if it's not pointing to
a ton
of research
of book-size articles, such as this one over here, which is titled "Bees, the Bees, Birds, and Mankind Destroying Nature" by Electrosmog, and this is published by
Ulrich Warnke, Warnke.
So I'm going to share that on the screen so you can read it as well. And he talks about the effects of wireless communication technologies.
But I want to say something about this.
Yeah.
This is a gentleman who has a particular expertise. His whole life has been devoted to understanding electromagnetic effects on the natural environment. So of course he's going to write a big piece about it because he knows more than most people. Mm-hmm. Well, he's sounding an alarm. We should not just take this and lying down. And for one, I'm an activist. I can't help it if I see something going on and I want to fix it. So I've been speaking out at my city council meetings just to get a little soundbite and some videos. Actually, there's 5 videos that in each 3-minute comment, I give a picture of some of the harms that it's causing to human beings as well. And then we're going to take this video, hopefully, and if you share it with other people, give people some information, because if you don't know that this is going on or that this is harmful, then you're just going to be a guinea pig. So
I know one of the articles that I just kind of cited a couple sentences out of said the city of Danville is also one of those cities here in California that's taking steps towards trying to keep 5G out of the city. But that was something I read just like a sentence or two on, but not exactly sure what they've so far accomplished. And maybe we've got to wait and see what's going to happen to the cities that have 5G and then watch the environmental impact on the nature there. But hopefully, again, we're going to get some information. We've hoped we piqued your interest. Is there one or two more things you want to share before?
Yeah, so if you want to know what studies are out there that are the most effective studies to pass this information on, the Environmental Health Trust, which is at EHTrust, that's EHTRUST.org.
Got it.
Is a great website for finding out more information, and they've kind of coalesced the studies into effects on humans. Here's the effects having to do with cancer. Here's the effects having to do with the calcium channel blocker system getting all messed up.
Kind of towards the conclusion, what I want to share is this suggested letter template that I found, again, from the title of the article is Pollinators at Risk, Honeybee Says Stop 5G. Again, the article that was published by emfsafetynetwork.org. And this here just gives more of the facts that we've already been discussing, kind of in a template format. And I'm going to put this up on the screen so we can read it together. And it reads, Dear whomever you're addressing it to, the science is in. EMFs are harmful to nature. I am calling on you to stop 5G to protect bees, birds, and humans. 5G requires significantly more cell towers, which will increase involuntary exposure to wireless radiation in our communities. There is no scientific evidence to support any claim of 5G safety. Scientists and public health experts from around the world are calling for a moratorium on 5G. 2018, Newsweek reported technology is quite literally destroying nature, with a new report further confirming that electromagnetic radiation from power lines and cell towers can disorient birds and insects and destroy plant health. The paper warns that as nations switch to 5G, this threat could increase. Peer-reviewed studies show worker bees did not return to their hives because of wireless radiation, which led to colony collapse. Radiation impacts on wild birds documented nest abandonment, plumage deterioration, and death. Lab studies of chick embryos documented heart attacks and death. In 2019, the Swiss environmental group Pro Natura reported 5G increases the body temperature of insects. The $30 million 10-year U.S. National Toxicology Program further found clear evidence of cancer from exposure to wireless radiation. The telecommunication industry unbounded profit motive should never outweigh safety. Communications are safer using wired and corded connections. Stop 5G. And the goal is to basically find your representatives, and it talks about your local state senators, U.S. representatives, and the presidents with links to all of those. So with all of this education that I've gained from being with Judy and the hours I put in on my end, what I'm going to do to hopefully make a difference is I'm going to bring it to my local board here in Los Angeles, California. And I sit on a small community board that represents about 800 homes. And then there's another board that encompasses 18 surrounding communities, and thereby, affecting probably 5,000 to 10,000 more homes, and hopefully bringing that education to them so that they have a better understanding of what 5G is, the proven research that's behind 5G on its effects on our health, as well as the bees and the birds and our plants that we love. And then hopefully we'll get more information. And again, if there's something that you know or you feel that the world should know as well, feel free to write that in the comments. Give us also the supporting links so that we can continue to educate all of ourselves, both Judy, myself, and in the community that's going to be looking at these videos for the days, months, and years to follow. And then what more would you like to share with us?
So there's a bunch of studies that have been done all over the world, and there's a researcher from Switzerland named Daniel Favre who specializes in food quality and safety and describes the methodology for a study in which direct adverse events were seen in bees' behavior following exposure to electromagnetic fields. He states, the present data strongly suggests that honeybee colonies are affected and disturbed by electromagnetic waves. And in his comprehensive review article, this Ulrich Warnke cites multiple studies which examine the effects of radiofrequency radiation exposure on bees and notes the vital importance of bees as pollinators. One study found behavioral effects after electromagnetic radiation exposure, including inducing artificial worker piping. 3 studies show how EMF disrupts navigation abilities. One study showed decrease in queen bee egg laying rate, and 2 studies show reducing colony strength. Furthermore, there's another researcher named Kumar and his colleagues found cell phone radiation influences honeybees' behavior and physiology. So all of these taken together, you cannot say that it just won't affect bees. It's too weak.
A lot of scientists and a lot of doctors standing behind all of these statements that you're sharing with us. And then I know you have some pictures. Hopefully we can share some pictures with the audience so that they can see what these things look like.
Yeah, so these pictures were taken in front of Torrance High's South School, and it's right in front of a high school. And I tried posting it to Torrance parents because their kids are likely affected. I
just want you to also capture the fact that a lot of these cell towers also look like natural trees. The goal is to disguise them within, typically here in Southern California, they typically will look as a pine tree, as in your images that you captured in front of the high school. And I've seen some also guised as palm trees, and they'll have some canary palms, also sometimes nicknamed the pineapple palm trees, and they'll have some cell tower that are artificial within these live living palm trees that are surrounding it, and they again guise these cell towers among trees so it looks more aesthetically pleasing, but the damage and the risks are still there. And obviously the difference between 4G, which we've been using now for many years, 5G is 10 times more powerful.
At least 10 times.
Yeah, so we're
up
dealing
to 100 times.
So and maybe there's research out there that says totally fine, totally safe, even though you said we're also on the verge of burning ourselves with like the power that's going to come off of this. But obviously the next thing after 5th generation is what?
6th generation.
It's just going to get more powerful. We need to know if this is hopefully something that's going to be safe for us, our children, and ultimately, our planet. And we need to learn how to coexist with the plants and the bees and the birds and all the
technology
and all the life and the technology. Right. I want to be able to upload my YouTube video faster. I really, really do. But we also got to make sure that it's in harmony with nature too, and that's hopefully something that we're gonna all accomplish, together with our research and with our vote, and hopefully make a difference to make this a better world, which is what I know Judy and I strive to do every single day in our lives. So thank you, Judy, again for having me. Thank you so much for educating me. This was a wonderful opportunity. I hope this was something new to a lot of you as it was for me, and if not, hopefully we shed some more additional information from the articles that we shared, and that you'll continue your research and you'll continue your investigation, and you'll do your part to make a difference in this world.
This is probably the most serious,
most
downer video you've ever done.
This is the biggest downer video to date.
Yeah. Because it's happening.
So how do we say goodbye?
That's a good question.
Bye. They say bye.
Hopefully not forever.
No. Until next time. So as always, keep growing with Ivory Organics, and wishing you all happy gardening.